I don't know what to say. I want to say something, but I can't think of the right words. I can only sigh. Ooishi-san, I've been looking for you. The section manager asked me about the wanted poster. Be quiet, this is a place of rest. Scummy guy barged into the room. The old owner quickly snapped back at him. Sorry, the section manager asked me about the wanted poster for the suspect. Can you talk to Kun about that? I need to speak to the coroner here. Can you tell him I'll be right over? Okay. Kumagai ran out of the autopsy room with the same haste he entered in. Kumagai. Wasn't he, I freaking forget. He works with Ooishi, but under him. He's like, there. What is that role between, like, two police officers where one, has, a higher ranking than the other one in our system? I forget what it is, but that's essentially what Kumagai is. I can't tell who's talking, because this is probably from Ooishi's perspective. We're not going to see him on screen. I'm just going to assume maybe the top one is Ooishi there. Blimey, isn't he? The old man would have slapped him for making such a fuss. I can't really tell who's speaking, I'm just going to read it in just a default voice, even if Ooishi's there. If I can tell it's Ooishi speaking with his distinct then I'll start reading in his voice, but until then, I can't be sure who's talking. Probably should go back to the Irie years and for people who aren't used to it. Right, if I slack off too long, I might get slapped as well. You're in Shishimone, all the hoodlums cross the street when you pass through. Yet he's the only one past the feature who's ever punched you for splitting your sumo wrong. Okay, I think this might actually be Ooishi, the second one. He really was a merciless man. I think he punched me more than my real father. Doesn't matter if he was your real father or not. You looked up to him in the same way that he really was a father to you. That's kind of messed up, isn't it? It's just like, oh yeah, his old man, he punched the shit out of him so many times, man. To the good old days. My real father passed away in Nagoya. He was unlucky. If he wasn't given the order to move to a plant in Nagoya, he wouldn't have died in an air raid. If he could have rode it out another half a year or so, then the war would have been over. I was sad, of course, but I was grown up enough by then that I didn't cry into the ground like my mother did. But people feel sadness in different ways. For some people it comes all at once as an overwhelming wave, but others feel sadness gradually over a long period of time. I think I was the latter. When he was alive, I only thought of him as annoying. In my mind, I even cursed him with questions about why he avoided the draft. And I thought my feelings towards him would always be the same. Then the war ended. As I saw families and friends being reunited with joy as they came home from the front, it finally happened. I grieved for my father's death. Japan was filled with people who were sad and full of despair. I knew I wasn't the only one whose life ended up that way. But I remember I was very, very heartbroken. After the war, the nation completely changed. As a policeman, the environment I worked in went through sudden changes too. In order to forget my sorrow, the only thing I could do was devote myself to my work. At the time, I was in charge of busting people for buying rice illegally. I conducted spot checks on travelers at major train stations. And boy, did I find a lot of them. There's a fairly big black market in Gogora, and a lot of people came from as far as Osaka to buy it. After the war, Japan faced a chronic shortage in food supply. To those ends, the nation instituted a food rationing program by signing the Food Control Act. But the rations the government provided weren't even close to being enough to feed families. Therefore, people had no choice other than buying food and supplies on the black market. The government hardly had enough food for rations, but there were somehow plenty on the black market. The dealers there sold it at outrageous prices, and some of them became quite wealthy. Sonozaki family made their money through that black market, but that's another story. Like Ooishi. This feud against the Sonozaki family goes back a ways then, by the looks of it. The government didn't bother arresting these dealers. For with their money, not mother, they were able to buy off the top members of the police department. Instead, they decided to go after the people buying the goods and even confiscated the rice they bought by selling everything they owned. Yeah, I remember that. Wasn't there a prosecutor who starved himself to death? Yes, there was. A prosecutor who vowed not to eat illegal rice starved to death. Wasn't it in 1947? That was horrible. He, a public prosecutor, proved it himself that people can survive by adhering to the law. That prosecutor had grown tired of the government charging people with doing whatever they could to survive. Was that an actual thing that happened then? I mean, this is a fictional story, but, it takes bits and pieces out of actual history here and there, And he proclaimed that he was never going to buy black market rice again. In 1947, he starved to death when he was only in his mid-30s. The law prohibited people from buying black market rice. But that was the only way to survive. In that case, was the Food Control Act a bad law itself? Death of the prosecutor was seen as a desperate message to the government about the unjusticeness of that law. We rounded up people with bags of rice and lined them up at the temporary inspection point next to the station. It was like a military tribunal. We inspected their bags and confiscated everything that they bought in the black market, at the black market. The women all cried. They sold everything they owned to buy the rice. They pleaded that if we confiscated the rice, how would they feed their starving children? Doesn't make sense, huh? That they forbade you from going after the sellers, so it was absolutely unfair from the view of the people. Everybody was on edge. They heard a police inspection was set up at the next station, they'd jump off the train and run. We were aware of those people, so we set up several officers near jump-off spots in order to capture them. I remember chasing after women carrying several kilos of rice on them. That was when I first met the old man. And I was surprised. Remember my father, he looked exactly like him. I really thought that maybe my father had miraculously survived the air raid in Nagoya. I was chasing a man who was running away from the inspection point. There was no way for him to run with a heavy bag of rice on him. So either he'd get arrested with the illegal rice or escape by ditching the rice that he bought by selling all of his belongings. In other words, if a person is being chased by the police, that person can't provide his family any rice to eat. Of course, I felt guilty about that. I knew people had to buy the rice to survive. So we had a tacit agreement to let those who ditched the rice and ran get away. So it was for the same thing as I chased them. Please throw it away. I didn't want to catch you, because I didn't want to hear him crying and bleeding in distress. It was then that the old man showed up. Looked exactly like my dead father. I was dumbfounded. Then all of a sudden he punched me in the head. If a father disciplines you as a child, you lower your head in apology. So happy to see my father alive that I couldn't hold my joy in. The old man said, "Let him go." When I heard his voice, I realized he wasn't my father, so I thought I'd arrest him for assaulting a policeman. But a young man like me, who'd barely grown any hairs yet, was no match for an older man used to fighting. So he got his ass kicked. He sure taught me a lesson. He gave me a good scolding in the middle of the street after I was all beat up. Who would even listen to him right? But something struck me then. I kept seeing my father in him. All I could do was listen. Yeah, he was a ruffian, but he showed his guts like a real man. That's what made him such a great guy. You don't see men like him nowadays. He was a true example of a man from the good old times. Despite my age, I still needed a father. I needed someone to look up to and to show me what makes a man a man. When I think about it, I really did have two fathers. The old man was a father, a brother, and my best friend. But now, here he lies with his head, body, arms, and legs all dismembered, and his right arm hasn't been found. Yeah, you can definitely see from this why Ooishi's so damn determined to get to the bottom of it. Because that guy was like a father to him. He taught me how to be a man, how to enjoy alcohol, how to play mahjong, and with that right arm, He gave me a good beating when I did something wrong, but that right arm is still missing. And we know what happened to that right arm. Well, actually, no, we don't. I mean, you know, the guy who took that arm, it was on the dissecting table, but who knows what they did with the arm? Did they store it away, throw it in the trash? I mean, that'd be kind of reckless if they did that. It's like, oh yeah, just throw it in the trash. I mean, they probably either stored it away somewhere or got rid of it in some way where it wouldn't be found. Do you have any suspects? Yeah, of course. I swear I'll find the old man's right arm and pay them back for what they've done to him. They're running enemies out from the shadows and inciting this collective... It did that again. This collective crime they call the damn protest, the Sonozaki family. Well, Ooishi, you're barking up the wrong tree there, because it was actually the workers that killed him. I mean, did they? They found all the other body parts. So did they catch the other workers? Did any of them turn themselves in the end? I can't remember if they actually did or not. Because if that's the case, then that would pretty much solve things for Ooishi. Be like, okay, that's what happened. He was murdered by the workers. But then, it'd be like, but who's the one who didn't turn themselves in? Something, I don't know. It's got nothing to do with the Sonozaki family. I declare war within myself. I already know who my enemy is. No, you don't, Ooishi. You spent all those years investigating the wrong leads, because there was no lead within the Sonozaki family for that. It was completely unrelated. But I guess, you know, with like each death happening each year on the night of watanagashi festival, probably led his suspicion to grow more and more. It's like, yeah, I was right, it's definitely the Sonozaki family, when it actually has nothing to do with it. So what we got? We don't have got our results. Try this one. Yeah, this one's available. It's like, how do we go from that to this? A group of boys are playing baseball under the powerful sun. The sound of cicadas makes the heat stand out even more, but to those boys it's just another kind of cheering from the crowds. Of course they go through training exercise to build stamina, but the boys don't actually like such routine activities. What they look forward to the most is the free game after practice. The school in Imizao is actually borrowed from the forestry service. The schoolyard is made of gravel, so it's not very appropriate for playing sports on. Compared to that, the grounds at the school in Okina are properly maintained for athletic activities, so the kids grow even more energetic when they come here. Kids from Imizao really don't care if the ground is made of gravel or not. The other instructor is watching the game, so I decide to go get some drinks for the team. Coach, where are you going? I thought I'd go get some drinks for everyone. Do you mind helping me, Satoshi-kun? Oh, no, not at all. Satoshi-kun decided to come along with me. Sometimes kids don't like what grown-ups choose, so I'm glad he agreed to help. Satoshi-kun and I got in the car and headed to the grocery store nearby. Manager, how is Satoka doing? Well, she's doing fine. Although it's an extremely slow process, most of the wounds are healing. I think we should let her rest for a little longer. It's natural for Satoshi-kun to be worried. Soka-chan has been in the hospital for over 2 weeks. Of course he doesn't know his sister has Mizuho syndrome. Not only that, she's almost at L5. It's like we're getting these backwards. We already now know that she's at L5 from one of the previous fragments. She could become deranged at any moment. He believes she is depressed because of the shock of their parents' accident. He came to the clinic every day to cheer his sister up. But Satoshi-chan has become emotionally unstable and was showing some dangerous symptoms, so we called off the visits. In fact, Satoshi-chan is not doing so well. L5, the stage Satoshi-chan is at, is a very abnormal one. Wait, so she's already at L5 here? The man from last year was at the same stage, was acting so abnormal that even a drug addict in his final stages would have turned and ran. There's no guarantee Satoshi-chan won't fall into the same condition. When we performed the autopsy on that man last year, we learned the true identity of the syndrome and gained a great understanding of its mechanisms. We even discovered some important facts that may lead to the development of a cure. However, we have yet to find a method of actually curing the disease. So if Satoshi-chan becomes unrecoverable, we may have to dissect her, just like we did the man from last year. How can I tell Satoshi-kun about his sister's situation? All I can do is make vague comments and lie to him that she's recovering. What if she becomes much worse? That would make me an unforgivable liar. The tiny bit of conscience that remains in me hurts. If it's okay with your clinic, can she stay there a little longer? Why are you saying that? I thought he wanted her to come home as soon as possible, so I'm a little surprised. Well, actually, Soko doesn't get along with our aunt. I heard she didn't get along with her parents, but she can't get along with your aunt and uncle either. Sadoko doesn't open up to grown-ups. Satoshi-kun has told me about their family background. The mother's constant remarriages wounded her children deeply. Satoshi-kun was able to overcome it, but Satoshi-chan was too young to be able to do that. That left her traumatized, and now she has the tendency to distrust or dislike guardians who aren't related to her. Actually, nobody would like a guardian who isn't related to them. It's not just Satoshi-chan, but usually people try to deal with that even if they don't like it. Yet Satoshi-chan is not capable of that. He says that it's like, nobody would like a guardian who isn't related to them, but what about, kids that are adopted? It's like, sometimes they get along, and then you get cases where, like, they meet their biological parents, or, they grew up with their biological parents, and then, like, through their home life being hell, they end up having to go to an orphanage or whatever, get adopted, and then they, like, rather than, rejecting their new parents, they actually, like, embrace their new parents because their new parents are awesome compared to their actual parents, who were assholes. I mean, shit like that does happen. And it also goes the other way around as well. Our uncle isn't home much. Besides, even when he is, he's either sleeping or watching TV, so he's not the problem. Well, he certainly became the problem a few years later, didn't he? But our aunt really goes after Satoko. Why doesn't she like her? I can guess why. Satoshi-chan's parents were damn proponents, and because of that, the villagers considered the aunt and uncle part of the Hojo family, and ostracized them as such. Moreover, they passed away suddenly in an accident and left 2 children behind, so I guess there would be more hate there than gratitude. If she had been obedient like Satoshi-kun, everything would have been fine. But Satoshi-chan can't be that way. She shows that in her attitude and expressions, which leads to her and her aunt having a big fight. I've told my aunt about Satoki's situation, but she just can't understand. I think you're a great big brother, Satoshi-kun. You're the one and only relative Satoshi-chan has left now. Right, I feel that way too. Satoshi-kun said with a slight hint of a sigh. He doesn't say it, but it seems Satoshi-kun has grown tired of having to cover for Satoshi-chan every time she has her and her aunt fight. He's a good person, as well as a good big brother, so I'm sure he'll do anything to cover for his sister. But that's a very exhausting thing to keep doing forever. Satoshi-kun was already doing that when their parents were alive. Eventually, his mental equilibrium couldn't handle the strain. He grew sick and he visited my clinic. I thought his circumstances might have improved after their initial cause, his parents, were gone. But it seems things were even worse than before. I understand. I can't release Satoshi-chan if things are like that. The symptoms may return again. Don't worry about the hospital fees. I'll make sure Satoshi-chan truly recovers. While trying to pretend I'm listening to his request, I feel a little disgusted at myself for making such selfish excuses. I'll make sure Takano-san is working on our dissection plan as we speak. If that's possible, that'll help me too. What? I mean, if Sadoko stays in the clinic a while longer, and I can relax as well. That's all. What do you mean? As soon as Sadoko comes back, I know she'll get into fights with my aunt again. And it's back to those days of constant fighting and screaming again. I'll probably get dragged into it too. So if Sadoko hospitalized for a very long time, that'll be the easiest on me. But when I think like that, I hate myself. Satoshi-kun is a great big brother who always sticks up for his little sister. But that doesn't mean he doesn't feel burdened. Things like that. What a terrible big brother I am. The more I think that way, the more I hate myself. Satoshi-kun said, sniffling once. His expression was one of anguish, as if truly feeling his own sin. His desire to be a model big brother is putting himself under greater pressure. I feel bad for Sadoko-chan, but I also feel bad for Satoshi-kun in a different way. As someone who knows the both of them well, I feel that I must be their ally, since they don't have anyone else who cares about them. It explains how Irie seems to care deeply about them then, doesn't it? It's like you said there, he's like one of the only grown-ups in the village that, doesn't shun them and actually cares about them. So what have we got next? Maybe we haven't gone that far yet. Well, Satoshi is aware of his sins, if that was anything to go by. But we haven't even seen Ren yet, so that's obviously not. Wait, what is it? Yeah, we're still on the second year. Actually, I think we might be on the third year. I think. Yeah, we're on the third year. I feel like we skipped the second year in a way, then that's helpful. No, we haven't got that yet. Haven't got that. Let's continue. Oh, the discontinuation. Ah, yeah, that's what was missing. Still haven't got that. These are the test results. We haven't really got a detailed test. Well, I mean, we have, but it at the same time, it's like, I don't know. Wait, serious death to the Furude couple. Excuse me, for the third year's good. I feel like I haven't got the top one, but we definitely got the bottom one now. I mean, we haven't even got any of Rika's ones with her family, have we? We got the watermelon, but we haven't got the Ryuga family yet. We haven't got their mysterious death yet, though. Run to being, maybe. Nope. I mean, I imagine this one right here. This one will lead into that. We'll see, but nope. Oh. Ranger man. And maybe it is this one then. It's not connected. I mean, we haven't got help from that yet. I feel like we're missing something here, obviously. Maybe this is the one. What was that other one? Wait, no, I think I clicked on it originally. Yeah, this one. Interruption. I guess I'm gonna have to cut this short because food has arrived. So, a short recording and be 2 parts instead of 3. That's a bit disappointing. But what can you do when food arrives for you? So let's exit. I'm pretty sure it's one of those two. And it annoys me that saving just has the blank screen because we're still on the fragments. Anyways, I'll see you next time, viewers. See you next time.